What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. Hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. Novak Djokovic is looking to set some history at the 2021 U.S. Open because even though he can't win a Golden Slam, he's still got a shot at that calendar slam, having already won the first 3 Grand Slams of this year. If he wins the U.S. Open title, he also does become the sole leader of the total Grand Slam race, so a lot of history again on the line for Novak Djokovic. Now, even though Novak does enter the draw as the betting favorite and several of the past U.S. Open champions, including Federer, Nadal, and Dominic Thiem, are out of the draw, I still think there's several players who pose big challenges to Djokovic, guys who have been in great form, gaining momentum on the tour, and primed to really make some big runs at this year's event. So today we'll be breaking down 5 of those players that I think have the best shot at upsetting Novak Djokovic, so make sure you stick around. And just before we do get into the actual video, as always, if you do enjoy what you see today, please make sure to do me a huge favor, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more content just like this. I want to get it started off with the world number 2 in Medvedev, and of course, being the number 2 seed on the ATP Tour, it makes sense that Medvedev is on this list. And just overall, he's a fantastic hardcore player in the midst of a great hardcore season, coming off, of course, a Masters 1000 title in Toronto, and a Masters 1000 semifinal appearance in Cincinnati before he did lose to Andrey Rublev. But historically, Medvedev has been very good at the U.S. Open. He was a finalist last year, a semifinalist back in 2019. Earlier this year, if we're talking about hard court majors, was also a runner-up in the Australian Open before he ended up losing to Djokovic. But what's really interesting about Medvedev and Medvedev versus Djokovic head-to-head is that they do play very similar in the sense that both players are very solid defensively, and much like Novak, Medvedev is essentially a brick wall from the baseline. Really, really good on the ground. Furthering the case, though, for Medvedev that he could potentially pull off this upset here, of course, posting a 3-5 record over the course of his career against Djokovic. So he has experience in the 8 matches that he's played. He has beat him before as well. And even though he lost to him in the Australian Open, I think Medvedev has taken a huge step up in terms of, how good and solid he's been behind the first serve. And we're later in the year. I think Medvedev's definitely hit a stride right now in the hard court season. So I do think this matchup would be extremely interesting, extremely intriguing overall. Number 2 is Alex Zverev, and in my opinion, Zverev comes into the tournament as possibly the most interesting player to watch in this entire draw, and seems to be really gaining experience and consistency, making deep runs into 1000 tournaments and even major events. He was the runner-up at last year's U.S. Open, a semifinalist in both the Aussie and French Open of this year, won gold in Tokyo, which included a win over Novak Djokovic, and of course now coming off the 1000 win in Cincinnati. What's really been the most impressive, in my opinion, about Zverev's game as of late has been the development into an all-court player, but on top of that, also the tremendous success behind the first serve, the power from the baseline, especially off the backhand, super, super consistent. And just overall, the endurance that he's had in matches, the mentality. If you look, for example, in the 3rd set of that Tsitsipas match, just really, really seems like he's going to be translating well in the near future consistently at these majors. But much like Medvedev, Zverev's beat Djokovic 3 times, done so in 9 matches. And as I mentioned before, he did win their last meeting, which was at the Tokyo Olympics, and won the 3rd set by a very big margin of 6-1. But that was snapping a 5-match losing streak that he had prior to that to Novak. So again, I think that this would be an extremely interesting matchup. But even with that being said as a whole, Zverev would really need to play lights out. You need to play lights out to beat Djokovic in a 5-set match. I think the big thing for him is going to be limiting the baseline errors, particularly on the forehand side and second serves. He did a decent job cleaning it up in Cincinnati, but he still ranks, I think it's 3rd on the entire ATP Tour in average double faults per match. So you definitely don't want to give away any easy points, especially on your own service games, and give Djokovic, who's already a tremendous returner, more looks, at breaks and deeper into your service games. Number 3 is Tsitsipas. What makes Tsitsipas such an interesting player to watch now is that he's arguably one of the most improved players on tour in comparison to where everybody was at maybe a couple of years ago. And the steps he's taken mentally in terms of fitness, the quality behind his serve, things like that being all super, super impressive. And it has been reflective in his performance results at some of the majors, including a semifinal appearance in last year's French Open. This year's Aussie Open also made the semifinals. And of course, that finals appearance this year in Roland Garros, where he was 2 sets up against Djokovic in the championship match. Tsitsipas did struggle a bit after the clay season. In his first 8 matches post Roland Garros, started 4-4, but he did seem to regain his form in the past couple of weeks. 2 semifinal appearances, one in Toronto, one in Cincinnati. So seems like he has regained his form and confidence. And he has beat Novak before. He's got a 2-6 career record against him, both wins coming on the hard court. So that's a good sign. Hasn't beat him since 2019 and has lost the last 5 matches against Djokovic. But the way Tsitsipas has been playing and the way he can play definitely can pose a challenge for Djokovic. Similar to a guy like Zverev, Tsitsipas would pose a lot of the same challenges against Djokovic. Great athleticism, court coverage, extreme fitness, really built for Grand Slam play. But I think the ground stroke consistency, primarily with that single hand backhand, is just massive for Tsitsipas against really anybody. But particularly in a matchup against a guy who definitely can make you pay for errors. Number 4, Matteo Berrettini. Now, before getting injured, before the Olympics, Berrettini was probably in the midst of the best stretch of tennis of his career. Had a win in Queens, a finals appearance at Wimbledon, which was his first Grand Slam championship match. A potential matchup here would also be the 3rd head-to-head match in the Grand Slams this year. Other than a withdrawal for Berrettini at the Aussie Open, both of his exits have been against Djokovic in both Wimbledon and the French Open. Now, Berrettini has lost all 3 matches that he has played head-to-head against Djokovic, 0-3 all time. But, I mean, when you look at Berrettini's game as a whole and his play style as a whole, really does have some tools to compete with the best players on tour. Obviously, all builds around that first serve that ranks 3rd on tour, but I've seen Berrettini definitely bounce back from 2020, but take huge steps overall in terms of his overall game. The backhand would be the one thing that I would definitely pinpoint to be sort of a key in another Djokovic rematch. Just basing off what I saw in Wimbledon, Djokovic definitely outplayed him on the ground, had the clear ground game advantage. But you never know. It would definitely be interesting. These are 2 players that have seen each other a lot, particularly this year. So, again, definitely going to be one to watch potentially. Last up, but definitely not least, is Andrey Rublev. Now, Rublev has been playing some great tennis as of late, and if Cincinnati is a telltale or a preview of what's to come for Rublev in these bigger tournaments, we might be in for a treat in the near future from the Russian. The story around Rublev has always been underwhelming performances in majors and 1,000 events, but again, seems like that could definitely be shifting, and the thing that's really impressed me about Rublev, especially as of late, has been his ability to mix things up, properly adjust to challenges that his opponents are giving him. I think a prime example of that was his win a week ago against Medvedev to make the finals in Cincinnati. Just a very, very nice week overall, but particularly that win really impressed me. Potentially some icing on the cake, just a little added bonus, I think, to a potential Djokovic versus Rublev matchup would be that these 2 players have never played head-to-head on tour. So they've never seen each other, and Rublev is a guy who's getting better. So definitely that could be posing an extra challenge for Djokovic, but we'd have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, if you did make it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, comments, predictions down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy today's video, please make sure to do me a huge favor, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more content just like this. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys again next time.